Are you ready for another hour of lecture? So, now we're going to move on to the 7 wonders of economics. Economics is a huge topic, okay? And token economics will not be any different. It's going to be very huge as well. It takes a lot of concepts from many areas in economics. So, token economics can be divided into different concepts, theories, classifications. So, token economics sounds a bit complicated, but I'll show you that it's actually not that difficult, okay? Before we dive into the various design pillars, just want to get you started on the 7 wonders of economics so that you understand, so I can show you how I got my thought process, how economics is being applied to token economics, and how you can understand things fit together. What I've done is to once again deconstruct concepts and take out the existing concepts and principles of economics and apply them to this decentralized digital ecosystem. The principles are the same, the execution or the application is slightly different. So hopefully this allows you to understand or be inspired to understand the power of economics in DLT and in decentralized digital economies. Also, this is not an exhaustive list. As I mentioned, economics is huge, token economics is huge as well. I just chose 7 concepts because it makes a nice name, 7 wonders of economics. And we're going to start with the thing that's being talked about all the time, okay? Network effects. You hear network effects all the time. Everyone talks about network effects. I was talking about that just now as well. And people say that it's all about network effects. Yes, that's true. Network effects is part of the new economies of network that we talked about just now. And network effects have to speed up mass adoption, have to speed up the ecosystem and building ecosystem, because at the end of the day, we want to coordinate all of these activities, right? So what is network effects? Basically, the more people use it, the more valuable the ecosystem is. As you can imagine, network effects is closely linked to scalability, because network effects is getting people into your ecosystem and scalability is having people in your ecosystem. But something important is that it's not the same as viral effects, okay? They have different objectives, they go by a different playbook, different kind of mechanism. And network effect is a kind of first line of defense that you can build up. Because having network effect is part of your asset, your intangible asset that we talked about, or we mentioned before. And it's very difficult for people to replicate that. Okay, so it's the first line of defense. It's not the same as viral effects. Viral effects is like short-term, fun, entertaining things. So there are many types of network effects. We'll talk about that later, but let's start with two-sided network effects, since most of the token ecosystems are two-sided. So we're going to start with the history of communication. So in the past, people had having a telephone is only useful if the other person has a telephone. I can't call you if you don't have a telephone to answer. So if you're the only person in the world that has a telephone, if you're the only person in the world that has a pager, then there isn't much use to the pager because there's no one you can page to, no one can accept your information. Unless someone creates an app that can read the message pages used. So the value comes from having the other person also having it, and then you can communicate, right? So our method of communication has changed with technology. We have started from landlines to pagers to this wonderful Nokia phone that everyone probably in the world has used it before, MSN or instant messaging, and then to all of these different apps that we have today. So what are communication apps that you use? You can comment below and I can check it out, or we can see if there's a dominant app that everyone uses. I use WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and Telegram for all of these apps available here. Not because I enjoy giving my data to Facebook, or not because I enjoy being on the app, but because people are on the app, and to connect with these people, I have to be on the app. And communication apps are only valuable to me if I can speak to people and I can connect with people on it. So this one here is called WeChat. And WeChat is very interesting because WeChat is WhatsApp is banned in China, and I can speak to my Chinese friends. WeChat is the dominant messaging app in China or in the Chinese community, because a lot of Chinese abroad are also using WeChat most of the time. So if I'm speaking to my friends in China, I can't speak to them via WhatsApp. and then WhatsApp is not valuable to me anymore because I can't communicate with them. The whole point of WhatsApp is communication. So I have to get WeChat so I can speak to them and communicate with them. And so the value of these application apps to me are not because they exist, but because I can communicate with someone who is on the app as well. So there are other communications apps available like Kakao Talk, which is dominant in Korea. You've got Line, which is dominant in Taiwan, in Thailand, in Hong Kong. You've got Facebook Messenger, which is really dominant in Vietnam, Cambodia, and France. And for iMessage, it's more dominant in the US. And then you understand that it's very interesting to see that these apps are more valuable in certain regions of the world because most of the community is on that communication app. So I was in Cambodia a few weeks ago, and everyone is using Facebook, and I don't have Facebook. But the only way to get in contact with these people is Facebook. And if I want to keep in touch with these people, I have to create a Facebook account so I can communicate with them on Facebook because they don't use anything else. So it's very interesting to see that I have to start downloading Facebook and getting a Facebook account so that I can be communicating with these people. And so due to the scalability properties of network effects, many firms want to dominate the market because I said this is the first barrier, right? Many firms want to dominate the market with network effects. And I said that there are many types of network effects. So here it is. The first one is social. So how are we using the term in our daily lives? So this could be like language as network effects. So if I'm the only person in the world that speaks the Lisa language, then that's quite useless because no one else can speak it. Or beliefs, religion, currency, conspiracy theories. These are types of network effects. Very, very weak ones. And then we have technology performance. So like VPN or BitTorrent as part of network effects because you have more people coming into BitTorrent and using BitTorrent, or more people where you can torrent your data and download your data. And now it gets more and more valuable, right? You've got data being central to the product's value. So you've got Google, you've got Waze, you've got Amazon. Then you've got two-sided networks, like, as I mentioned, like telephones. So you also have Uber, Airbnb, Tinder. Can you imagine you're the only person on Tinder and then there's no one else to swipe with? Then that's kind of pointless because you don't have anyone to connect with. Or you have direct, which is the strongest network effect, direct network effects like phones, trains, roads, and highways, where you have usually a little bit more hard physical hardware products available. So once a company build up its defense with network effects, we can see it's very common to see that a small number of very dominant large companies will exist because they are the few companies that manage to get most or all of the network effects. So what is network effects in the token ecosystem? So in the digital space, businesses are always competing, and this is a winner takes all scenario. So we can look at how people compete in the token ecosystem. So with the social, in terms of the social aspect, Bitcoin is synonymous for cryptocurrencies or for blockchain for many people. So it's very interesting. Even if you don't know anything about blockchain, a lot of people heard about Bitcoin, and it's now in the general language or general vocabulary of people these days when we talk about blockchain. We've got technology performance, so like high transactions per second, with scalability. We've got privacy coins. We've got one chain, and what they're trying they're trying to create network effects with their technological performance. We've got data, where data is central to the value of network. We've got Gnosis and Augur. Two-sided, we've got dApps, DAOs, for like MakerDAO, like Bitcoin, where it's creating network effects through both the sellers and buyers or producers and consumer side of the market. And then you've got direct ones, which is the blockchain platform itself. So it's usually a hardware or physical products, but in the digital decentralized world, it could be stuff like a blockchain platform. So another way we can look at this is also how we are. Ethereum is probably one of the most used blockchain platform, and then a lot of people coding in Solidity instead of coding in some other random new blockchain platform that just popped up. So these are different kind of network effects that we can see in token ecosystems today. Signaling theory and a break. Okay, we're back. Signaling theory. What is signaling theory? Signaling theory is like playing charades. What can I change? Okay, like playing charades. So you have to ask, the other person has to guess your word or your card without you saying anything, without you hinting. So instead of telling, you have to show with actions or other methods. So let's look at the world of dating and marriage. In the past, we looked at we really like very curvy, shapely ladies because that signals wealth, affluence, that the person can eat well, and you want to marry someone like that. And then in the 90s, we are looking at very, very slim ladies, very, very skinny, because you're signaling to them, they're signaling that they're able to consume their diet, consume their nutrition, can manage that and go against your self cravings. So probably signaling some form of self discipline. And in the world today, people are looking more at very fit ladies because it signals that this person understands health, is educated enough to understand the importance of healthy lifestyle, could probably live longer with a healthy lifestyle. They can manage the time and they value their health, which is very important. So in a lot of ways, when in the world of dating or when you're looking for a potential partner, you can't just tell them that, I'm very good. You signal in different ways. Similarly, in the world of cryptocurrencies, the thing about cryptocurrencies is that it's very, very easy to create a cryptocurrency. You can just get a Bitcoin and Litecoin, fork it, change some aspects, you get your new coin, you get your own coin. And anyone can do that. Anyone can create a coin, flood the market, airdrop it to a lot of different people. And it's costless to create. It's costless to airdrop it to anyone. But how then can you tell people that your coin is good? How can you tell people that your coin is unique, your coin is better than the others? And how can you increase the real value, the percentage of real active users? So this is where you have to signal that your coin is much better because it's cheaper to join. It's more expensive to signal that your coin is good. So ways to signal will be, for example, with Cardano, you've got peer-reviewed paper, and you've got experts in your team. You've got frequently updated GitHub, or one of the easiest ways that a lot of people are doing, which I don't recommend, but you do, okay? It's not investment advice. That you can be paid to be published. So you can pay to whatever, like Forbes, Hackanoon, CNN, CCN, or whatever, and you just pay for them to publish your article. So it's a type of signaling to other people saying that, oh, these people, Forbes picked up your article, but in actual fact, you just pay for it. So there are different types of signaling, from very difficult, like writing a peer-reviewed paper and having real experts in your team, to slightly easier ones where you just pay to show that you're better. So these are different types of signaling. The third one is monetary policy. So this is mainly applicable to digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, specifically since they are in the form of money. and some aspects may apply to other token functions like securities and utilities. But let's not go there, let's just focus on money. So there are three considerations in money. First, we've got fiscal policy, which is government spending, changes in taxes, government borrowing. So this is how the government manages money indirectly. Or you've got monetary policy, which is the money itself. So increasing or decreasing prices, sustaining demand of money in terms of through inflation. How do you have stable prices? These are different things that monetary policy concerns itself with. And for some currencies, what they want to do also is to ensure and to look at the different exchange rate regimes. So this is to ensure stability of coins or of the digital money that you have. So for example, you have a currency union, like in the EU, where everyone uses the same currency, although they have very different markets. So this could be something like, I don't know, maybe with Libra, you have all the 20 partners of Facebook, and all of them use the same currency, although they have very different kind of business model. Maybe, I don't know. You've got managed floating, like Hong Kong dollars to USD. So Hong Kong dollars wants to peg itself to USD, but it gives a range where it can be within that range before they change, before the monetary policy or fiscal policy steps in. So this can be something like, there are a lot of stable coins that want to be pegged to USD, but it allows some variance of movement. You've got free floating, which is your USD, GBP, JYP, US dollars, British pounds, or like Japanese yen, where they are just themselves, like they're just managed by central bank, and central bank dictates different things. And they have probably basket of goods to peg their pricing to or manage their money, but they're not pegged to another currency. And they've got pegs, which is stuck to each other. So like Belize, country in Central America, is pegged to US dollars. So one Belize dollar is one US dollar. Or Brunei and Singapore are pegged together, so one Brunei dollar is one Singapore dollar. So these are the different exchange rate regimes that you can consider, or that needs to be considered when deciding or creating digital currency. And now we move. So there's a lot of talks about currencies and everything. The thing about digital currency is that it's not that much different from physical currencies, because it's just on the digital form, right? What the key difference that we want to talk about is either if it's centralized or decentralized. So digital currencies can be centralized or decentralized. Cryptocurrencies, the premise of cryptocurrency is that it's a decentralized currency embedded or protected with cryptography, and that there's no central authority that can one day say that, okay, I'm just going to make a decision to change and increase or make changes to the rules of the currency. So central banks control the country's currency. So you've got the Federal Reserve in the US, you've got the Bank of England in UK, where they manage or they govern how money is being, or they control how money is being managed. So it's pretty much about 10, 15 very, very smart people in the organization that will control how the money is governed and managed. It's quite centralized. I mean, they're very, very smart people, and they did lots of studies, research, and analysis on it, and centralized. The alternative is decentralized, and since the 2008 crisis, we do want decentralization because maybe they're not doing a good job. So we want a decentralized system. That means a lot of core decisions are embedded in code and baked into the token ecosystem. And depending on the mechanism design, people could vote some changes. So like in MakerDAO, you could vote to increase or decrease the stability fee. So you can vote on some different issues. And then it slightly gives more power to the people and participants in the system, more people than just the few very smart people. So in the crypto world, we have very different ideas of how the supply of digital money or digital tokens be. Some some want it kept as part of a mechanism or governance mechanism. So you've got Bitcoin capped at 21 million, and then some like it, some have it free floating, uncapped, like MakerDAO and a lot of other coins where it's just as many as you want, or we can destroy as many as you want depending on the situation and what is being asked. So these are also things to consider, and these can be applied to your digital currencies or cryptocurrencies that you want to create. Fourth, property rights. Property rights are socially enforced constructs to determine how goods or resources are being distributed or are being used and owned. So when we talk about, so property rights is a very, very huge topic on its own, and there are many ways to design the allocation of property rights. We'll talk more about that in the token design lecture, but here I want to focus on new ways to manage property rights or how property rights are applicable to digital assets. So in traditional property rights will be, you own the stock of Coca-Cola, and then you get dividends when Coca-Cola makes money. That's nice. Then we have moved on to this thing called security token offering, where it's just regular securities but tokenized. So I can own part ownership of a crypto company, and then if they make money, I get some dividends. So Polymath does that. Polymath allows you to own equity of different companies or crypto companies, and then you just fund them in crypto, and then you can get some money or equity and stuff like that. So being on blockchain doesn't solve all problems. Being on blockchain could be just reducing inefficiency. So by digitizing that, by having things on blockchain, you have more transparency, more efficiency, more transparency. It's not going to solve all the problems that exist in the real world, but it can help to solve maybe smaller problems, help to reduce inefficiency. But what I want to talk about here is that what are some new ways that we can look at property rights? So property rights in digital assets. There's something in property rights called the Harberger's property taxation. So what it said, because things are now on the digital platform, I told you there's a lot more transparency, there's reduced inefficiency, and we can play a little bit more with understanding property rights. So Harberger's is an economist that created this new taxation model where taxes are fixed. So let's say I buy a house and I have to pay 7% of that, 7% of taxes on the house. Now, the fun part is instead of the government or someone assessing based on the value of the land or my neighbor's land or my neighbor's house to value the price of my house. How do I determine the value of my house? Is me as the house owner reporting the value of the house. And then you just pay 7% or you pay the taxes on the value that you reported. So then you think, okay, that sounds nice. I can just make sure that I can just report that my house is $1, and I just pay 7 cents, which is the tax on the house $1. Now here's the catch. The catch is that the amount that you mentioned will be in this ledger that everyone can see, that it says it's $1. And anyone that wants to buy it can buy it from you, and you have to sell it. You're obliged to sell it. So now you probably think, okay, I price it at $1. Someone will want to buy my house for $1, and I have to sell it. So if I have to sell it, then I want to sell it at the price that it's fair to me. So maybe the house is worth $500,000 to me, and I'll price my house at $500,000. So if anyone wants to buy it, then I will sell the house to get $500,000, which is the value the house is to me. So then it makes sense. So that's a self-enforcing mechanism where the person doesn't have to come in to say, I value your house at $500,000, and then you feel like, oh no, I don't think so because my neighbor's house is worth whatever. But now, because you assess the price by yourself on the condition that someone can buy it from you and take it away from you at any time, and if someone takes it away from you, then you want to have the value, you want to price that value, you want to price that asset to your value, and then you also don't want to price it too high, right? If the house is worth $500,000 to me, I want to price it at $5 million so that no one will buy from me. But then because I have to pay 7% of taxes on that $5 million, and just doesn't make sense. So the punishment is the incentive. the punishment is the taxes, and the incentive is the punishment is someone buying the house away from me based on the price that I give, and the incentive is for me to pay as little taxes as possible. So with that, the behavior is that I will price my house according to how much I value my house, which is something we talked about, because as we move on to the future information economy or token economy, we start pricing things differently. We price things based on consumers' value instead of just production cost. So this is one method to do that. And of course, when it comes to physical goods, it's easier to price things. When it comes to housing, and I can price the land, I can price based on my neighbor's property. But something that we could probably use that in is digital assets or digital goods. So it could be art, or pricing my CryptoKitties, or pricing something that is digital art, digital asset on blockchain. So that could be something that could be something interesting. And then when we talked about incentive compatibility before, saying that we want people to be honest, and this is the dominant strategy, incentive compatibility, because I want to be honest regardless whatever people say, because the value is to me. So I want to be honest because being honest is aligned with what I want. So that's property rights. Very interesting, innovative, creative ways of dealing with property rights. And this is just the start. There are going to be more applications, more creative solutions coming up in the near future. Number 5. Okay, we're ending soon. Lock-in. So what is lock-in? Lock-in is a relatively new concept in information economics compared to the rest of economics or traditional economics. It comes with the evolution of information and technology, where we create information economics. So lock-in is a way to get people to stay in your system. We essentially lock them in. We can't get out. We get a key and we lock them in. And there's some ways to do that. For example, we make it difficult for them to leave the system through non-monetary terms, or we keep upgrading the system so they have a reason to stay, or we make it expensive to change the system. So if you're an Apple fan, if everything on iCloud, you buy your earpods, you have your MacBook, your iPad, iPhone, iMac, your mouse and laptop, keyboard, and Apple TV and everything, you realize that it syncs very easily. So it's very difficult for me to just say that, okay, I keep all of my Apple stuff, but I'm going to change my phone to Android. Then the things that I have on iCloud doesn't sync with my Android phone anymore. So it's very difficult to leave the system because everything is just in there now. Then you also keep upgrading the system. So every year there's always new iOS coming out, new OS coming out, new systems coming out, and new products coming out. So just incentivize you want to stay on the system, and also making it expensive to change the system. So the whole Apple ecosystem is expensive enough, but if you have to get rid of all of them to buy everything that's Android or Google based, it's also going to be expensive. So it doesn't really make much sense. So what is it like in the world of centralized versus decentralized world? So we can create lock-in effects in 3 ways. Product itself, complementary products, which is your network, as well as tacit knowledge. In the centralized world, we have Windows XP. I don't know if any of you have used Windows XP before, but the last time I used Windows XP was really long ago. But do you know that as of the beginning of this year, 8% of the world still runs, 8% of the computers are still running on Windows XP, or rather 8% of Windows computers are still running on Windows XP. So there's actually quite a lot of people running on Windows XP. So the product itself is, you can lock people into the product itself. Now, why do people still want to use Windows XP? Most of the time it's because they created different products or they're complementary products that integrate with Windows XP. So for example, there's a lot of secondary schools or high schools that are still using Windows XP in the system. Or you have this Wendy's point of sale system in 2018, still using Windows XP as their core operating system, or as their operating system. Or you have this Barber kiosk in 2018, in Indonesia that's using Windows XP. And that's not because they don't want to upgrade. It's also because this system runs on Windows XP. They created the school's Ethernet ecosystem, and it runs on Windows XP. The barber's kiosk runs on Windows XP, the operating system. So they're locked in to keep using Windows XP. Then you also have tacit knowledge, like how do you use the system, your client know-how, your staff education, that all align to want to continue using Windows XP. So this is the centralized world of how to create lock-in. With the decentralized world, that's we take the example of Ethereum. So Ethereum is a product itself. It's the blockchain platform, and you have different network or complementary products that's in place. Like you have Consensus, which is the consulting arm, and they're always getting people to produce this stuff on Ethereum, getting people to make their products on Ethereum, or to learn Solidity, running developers program, running hackathons on Ethereum. You really want to build up that Ethereum's ecosystem. And then you've got the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, EEA, where you've got all the different partners available, and they all understand Ethereum, so it's easier to work together and work with them. Then you also have the client support, smart contracts, Solidity language. All these are the different tacit knowledge available to increase lock-in effects of Ethereum and people to use Ethereum. Now we move on to number 6, which is principal agent theory. And if I can put that into simple words, it just means skin in the game. How do you increase skin in the game so that the principal and agent, two different parties, will be aligned with the same objectives and same incentives. So we want to incentivize people to behave differently in a different way by aligning their incentives. So let's imagine your utility bills. Okay, if your utility bills are included in your rent versus your utility bills are not included in your rent. If it's included in your rent, then you're like paid by your landlord. Then you don't really care about using water, right? You just annoy people and just play around with water and not take water too seriously. Whereas if you are obliged to pay for your water and pay for your own utilities, then you'd be very, very cautious about the amount of water you use or the amount of utilities you use. So a landlord would rather that they separate utilities from your rent, because then you don't pay because then both of you guys are incentivized to use less water, and then you don't waste water, you don't increase the utilities bill by too much because you have to pay. You as the renter has to pay. So you increase the skin in the game. And in the aspect of blockchain or token ecosystem, one of the examples is paying for performance. So you only get paid when you only get paid in terms of transaction fees when you can verify that the work has happened. So that means the block is being validated. So this is the blockchain Bitcoin's transaction fee in USD since June 16 to May 17. So this is useful when the paying entity cannot specify the key aspects of the desired outcome in advance. So for example, Bitcoin's transaction fees change based on demand and supply, and it's not possible to create a complete contract detailing all the possible outcomes. So paying for performance is a good solution because you pay based on transaction fees on the value of the block. So the Bitcoin protocol does not specify the amount of computing power that each miner should contribute to ensure its successful validation, because that would be very difficult to implement. So that instead, the individual will self-select and invest in better like A6 GPUs to perform the work and get paid in transaction fees. The other alternative is through direct compensation for delivering the services, which is the block reward when you add the block to the blockchain. So a miner gets to self-select the input they want to contribute based on the probability of them getting the block reward. So for example, investing in better ASICs and GPUs, which is self-selecting, to contribute to the Bitcoin ecosystem. So it's a direct compensation of delivering the service. So with the example of this water thing, there is no, it's like paying for performance, because the agent, the principal, the landlord can't decide how much utilities you're going to use. So you just pay for performance, so you pay for the amount of utilities used. So that's just one of the incentive mechanism. And how do we encourage, how do we use both of them in the token ecosystem? We see that in Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, we have both pay for performance and direct compensation. Pay for performance will be transaction fees, and direct compensation will be your block rewards. So it balances the two types of incentives. So the system is unsure of the value of the block being validated, so they pay for the performance as a percentage of the block's value, pay for performance, and then a block will be validated no matter what, and you want to pay to thank them for doing their work. So there's the direct compensation, which is the Bitcoin's mined when you add it to the block. So in this way, you can balance both of them to increase skin in the game and increase users to be a miner and being part of the game. Lastly, I want to end on an easier note, which is Schelling point. So Schelling point is a natural point that people tend towards when there is a lack of communication. So, for example, if you're a partner in crime, okay, we're partners in crime, and the police says that, okay, I've got 6 numbers for you. If you and your partner choose the same number, you both are free to go. It's like, okay, that's good. Now, these are the 6 numbers. Which number will you choose? If we choose the same number, we both get to go off scot-free. You can comment the number below, and then we can see if everyone gets the same number. But I would choose 100,000, and I'm going to guess most people are also going to choose 100,000. Not because the other numbers are bad numbers, but because 100,000 is a very natural whole number that we are generally quite attracted to. So how does that work in real life? Imagine you are in a new foreign country and you don't speak the language. There are 2 food restaurants, there are 2 food places here, one with like super long queue and one with no queue at all. Which one will you go to? You're probably going to go to the one with the longer queue, because it shows that if everyone decides to go and eat there, it probably shows that the food is better. In the same way, if you're a miner and you have a block to add, and you've got 2 chains, one is a long chain, which is Bitcoin, and then one is a fork chain, which is Bitcoin Gold. You can add your block to either one of the chains. Which one will you add? People usually add to the long chain, because the long chain signals that there are a lot of verified blocks on it already, and then a lot of people trust it. So this is an important area in decentralized systems, because this is one of the ways that we can coordinate activities among individuals and these individuals have different incentives, different preferences. So Schelling point is a way that people naturally tend towards without communication, and even if they have different incentives. So another more tangible example is Schelling coin. So Schelling coin is a decentralized data feed and a mechanism built by Ethereum around financial contracts and derivatives. So it works in 2 stages. The first stage is that users will give the truthful value and feed it to the system, and then there's a second stage, and then the system will calculate which is the median value, which they think is truthful. So it's the 25th to 75th percentile. So people who give the value within this range will be rewarded. So they will get their stake back plus some form of reward, and then the rest of them will get the stake back and minus some Ethereum or some stake, because they're punished for being wrong. So why does this work? Essentially for the same reason the prisoner example above worked. The truth is arguably the most powerful Schelling point out there. Everyone wants to provide the correct answer because everyone expects everyone else to provide the correct answer, and this protocol encourages people to do that. And so this is the Bayesian incentive the BIC, because you are being truthful, because you expect everyone to be truthful, and everyone expects everyone to be truthful, and we have a truthful ecosystem. So that's it, and this is a quick summary of the 7 wonders of token economics. We have network effects. So the human explanation is that the more people are using it, the more valuable it is. The example would be the world of communication. My telephone is only useful if I can call you. My WhatsApp is only useful if you're on WhatsApp. Otherwise, I have to use WeChat and speak to you. And in the crypto world, you have your Bitcoin's growth, where more people are using it. Bitcoin is increasing its network effects in terms of all the way from hardware, where people are using Bitcoin's platform, Bitcoin's network, all the way to social aspects, where Bitcoin is now synonymous with the word cryptocurrency and blockchain. Signaling theory, the human explanation is charades. How do you say something without saying it? And the real world example would be society's definition of beauty. How does it signal someone's wealth or signal someone's education level? And the crypto world is creating an valuable altcoin. How do you signal that your coin, everyone can create coins, how do you signal that your coin is better than the rest? Monetary policy shows how the money is governed, and in the real world, we've got the Bank of England governing the Great British Pound. And in the crypto world, we have different kind of governance structure, and one of the governance structure will be having a fixed or dynamic monetary supply or token supply. With property rights, it's the ownership of resources. For example, you've got shares for a company, and then in the crypto world, you've got art, digital art, where you can price art based on however you think the art prices should be, and you pay a transaction fee based on that, and anyone who wants to buy the art can just buy from you. Lock-in is a way to continue to stay in the system, and the real world example will be Windows XP, and the crypto example will be Ethereum, where they do many things to increase lock-in of people. Number 6, we have principal agent, that's skin in the game and self-selection. The real will be paying for utilities, when your utilities are either part of your rental contract or not part of your rental contract. And in the crypto world, we saw how transaction fee and block rewards, which is paying for performance and direct compensation, help to increase skin in the game and self-selection. And lastly, we have shining point. That's a point that people naturally tend towards. And the example would be when you're in a crowded place and you go to somewhere with a longer queue. If I tell you that we're going to meet 12 o'clock tomorrow at the metro station in New York, most people will probably go to Grand Central Station. Shining Coin is one of the methods in the crypto world. You also have token curated registries. I don't want to talk so much about it now because I'm having a lot of mixed thoughts about it, because token curated registries essentially means that we are allowing people to stick on a decentralized list of options, and people naturally tend towards the one with more stakes. But at the same time, it also encourages some form of bribery, because you have more stake or you have more tokens, you can stake more, and then you can distort the list. So I'm still thinking about that, and I will clarify that when I have more idea. But Shining Coin is one of them, or a forked coin versus a forked chain versus the original chain. People are more likely to act to the original chain. So that's that. I'll take a small pause before I share something very valuable with you. And I'm back. So I know I talked a lot. I gave a lot of content, and my throat was actually quite painful after speaking. But there's a lot of valuable resources and a lot of other, like a transcript or whatever things that I've mentioned. I put them in a lecture note. So it's just available here. You can just scan the code or go to bit.ly/201-notes. And they are going to be, it's a locked PDF. So I would appreciate if you don't share it with anyone unless, the person has paid for it, because it comes with the price of your course. And it has everything that I've covered, including a little bit more information, as well as some resources of the things that I have referenced, and if you're interested, you can go and look at them. So it's a PDF. The password is economics design, one word, no spacing, and all small letters. So have fun learning more, and ultimately, I really appreciate if you can give me some feedback on how I've done, what you have learned, if there's anything, if it's too technical, too easy, and what else do you want to learn. So just please give me some feedback so I can continue providing value to you. And till then, I'll see you next lesson, which wouldn't take too long this time, promise. Bye!